Asivele Maswatla Mahle singene ngekhathi endlini yabayesikhulu silalele inkulumo yawo emaphakelo.
Cha asithathele lithuba sivusele bahlonishwa bendlu yabayesikhulu siphindze sibonge nekuthi sebakhona sivusele nema guest ethu lapha eTulu kulandzela ukuthi yawo umsebenzi weParliamente vele sengilo lolo suku lesikhulume ngalo emalangeni laphelile ikakhulu kati losuku lolubalulekile lwebudget kungaba kunibikela nje bahlonishwa kucala lokuthi bantikolwa ebantwana beMaswati balapha eTulu nabo thishela babo kutobona nje ukuthi umsebenzi eParliamente uchutshwa njani nako ke lesikubonga koloko siyabemukela nabo nekuthi nje bothishela ba expose abantwana into umsebenzi loseParliamente bese ke siyakhumbuda ke bothishela nesikhumbudele abantwana nawo wonke nje lokhona endlini ukuthi eParliamente locingo alukakavumeleki ukuthi lukhale mangabe kungendeka tincingo nitiphethe lapho senikhohliwe ukuthi faka kubo silence yendani njalo noma ke vele ulucime nje nangabe engcenye awuboni lokuthi kuncishiswa kuphi kuze lube ku silence kodwa nje lungakhali endlini akufanele kube kanjani esimemetelo lesinye ke bahlonishwa kungaba ukuthi sicele ematiko onke kokuthi mhlawumbe asivetele ema reports ngoba sifuna kusebenta in the next sitting siyawatablisha lama reports so ba make sure bahlonishwa kuchecka ematiko ukuthi ema reports akhona onke eParliamente okungenani by latest Monday sibese siyitholile ireport yelitiko lakho nasingakayitholi umsebenzi utawuchubeka ulolome asadike sesewuyawe ibamba njani siyacela nisibambise kanjalo ma ministries bese kuthi bahlonishwa siyacela ukuthi nase sicede umsebenzi wanamuhla bo chairperson bema portfolio bonke nje sitawucela ukuthi basale nayiphuma nje indlu bathi nje gozololo kancane bonke bo chairperson bema portfolio committees sawucela lokho bese ke siphinde sicele li committee la ka agriculture select committee ngiyethemba bayakhumbula lelo committee lelakhethwa kule select committee lekwathiwa ke iyobuka tindzaba letitheni lapha ka agriculture bayacelwa ke ukuthi nabo basale bona ke batawuhlanganela e conference nase sicede kusebenza leyo select committee leyakhethwa kuyawuhlola lokuthi itiko la ka agriculture bese ke members of the health portfolio committee now are requested to attend to a workshop by the ministry and that will take place on the 20th of February 2025 at 8:30 a.m. venue use Mountain View Hotel bekekile ke ukuthi bahlonishwa be portfolio committee aka health bangene entsambama ngemhla ka19 kusho ukuthi ke batawuhamba ke baze bacethe ngalomhla ka20 ngalelo langa kepha ke bacethe ngesikhathi ungaba ngiloko lokunye bahlonishwa kulandzela ukuthi losuku lwe budget induna ka finance yang indicator eoffice la speaker ngesinye setimemetelo bahlonishwa yathi ke cha ukhona lengathanza ukuveta endlini lehloniphekile before siqale ibusiness yanamuhla nduna ehloniphekile yaka finance.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. And thank you for allowing me to say something quickly before the official business begins. Please allow me to dispose with protocol for a moment. On all accounts, today is a very special day, Honourable Speaker. It's a silver jubilee, 25 years of a new millennium, in which the House has achieved incredible milestones. It also happens to be Valentine's Day, a day in which we show compassion and devotion to our loved ones. Equally, I believe it's a day that we need to raise our voices in unison against the scourge of gender-based violence, especially against our women and children. On a personal note, Mr. Speaker, it's on this day that I count my blessings one by one, both as a husband and a father. Therefore, I'd like to say happy Valentine's Day to my wife, Barbara, who's joined me today, with a bouquet of flowers and roses. Her support, love, and sacrifice has been indispensable to my national mandate. To celebrate the day, I'd also like to hand over a special rose to each member of the House, in addition to the one that they've received as they're coming in, to thank them for their leadership and service. Men excluded, of course.
Cha siyabonga nduna lehloniphekile awu lelanga layo induna abahlonishwa mane ke liconzene nelilanga vele lelinjalo nje kepha ke Minister Finance bahlonishwa bathi bebathi nje utawenda lokunye ngaphandle kwaloku Unfortunately you did not do it, but anyway let's cut leso sesendlulile bahlonishwa mhlawumbe asicele ukuthi indle ehloniphekile formally sibikele bahlonishwa ukuthi kunemhlonishwa lobe sisebenta naye ahlehla khona la ekhaya eParliament eminyakeni lethite lephelile umhlonishwa babesikakatsa Mathebula lokuvakeleke ukuthi kube sesekuba nekokuthi isikhathi sakhe sekuphila emhlabeni kubonakala ukuthi sesifike ngasekugcineni ngida ukucela ke bahlonishwa ukuthi kulesikhathi indlu ehloniphekile itawusukuma ime ngetinyawo si observe a moment of silence indlu ayisukuma Amen. Induna lehloniphekile yaka finance ithi lilanga letithandzani bahlonishwa sengithi ke awu thineke sonke sikhumbula lesuku lolukhulu la uNkulunkulu asithandza khona waze wanikela ngendvothana yakhe lokungijesu ukuthi into usifela sonke emhlabeni kufanele ke ukuthi sithi sisakhumbula lwethu luthando selukhumbule nalo loluthando lolwendlula konke leli verse lelo ke likuJohane 3 verse 16 ngoba tincingo setaba khona emavesi asaba la tincingweni sebatati fundzela ke bahlonishwa kepha nje likhuluma ukuthi uNkulunkulu walithandza live kangaka waze wanikela ngendvothana yakhe lekuphela kwayo uthi ngilo naloyo lokholwa ngiyo angabhubhi kepha abe nekuphila lokuphakathi siyafisa kangaka abahlonishwa ukuthi sisakwenda konke emhlabeni selikhumbule njalo luthando lwaKristu luthando lwasimakathi siyabonga bahlonishwa kakhulu timemetelo tethu tiphela lapho Mr Clerk.
Honourable members, the Eswatini House of Assembly Order Paper number 2 of 2025. On the order paper for Friday, the 14th of February 2025, we have tabling of reports. The first report to be tabled is the report for the budget speech 2025. The second one is the budget estimates book for 1st April 2025 to 31st March 2028. The third one is the Treasury Annual Report for the financial year ending 31st March 2024. The fourth one is the medium-term debt strategy. The fifth one is the annual borrowing plan. The sixth one is the Eswatini Revenue Services Report for financial year ended 31st March 2024. The seventh one, it's the Establishment Register for the financial year ended 31st March 2025 to 2026. The eighth one is the Financial Audit Report on the consolidated government accounts of the Kingdom of Eswatini for the financial year ended 1st March 2024. The last one is the Eswatini Annual Statistical Bulletin. All these reports are going to be tabled by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Induna lehloniphekile elitiko laka Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, with your permission, I leave the House. May I please table the budget speech for 2025? Firstly, secondly, the second one is a budget estimates book for the 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2028. The third one is a Treasury annual report for the financial year ending 31st of March 2024. The fourth one is a medium-term debt strategy. The fifth one is the annual borrowing plan. The sixth one is Eswatini Revenue Services Report for financial year ended 31st of March 2024. The seventh one is the Establishment Register for the financial year ended 31st of March 2025-2026. The eighth one is the Financial Audit Report on the consolidated government accounts of the Kingdom of Eswatini for the financial year ended 1st of March 2024. In fact, that might be a mistake. It's probably the 31st of March 2024, Honourable Speaker. And then the ninth one is the Eswatini Annual Statistical Bulletin. With your permission, may I please table, Honourable Speaker?
Please go ahead and table the reports. Sibonga kakhulu nduna lehloniphekile elitiko laka Finance. Mr. Clerk.
Our members, on page 2 of the order paper, we have the Eswatini Water Services Corporation Annual Report 2024, a report that is going to be tabled by the Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Minister for Natural Resources and Energy, or the Minister acting. Asibonge Clerk, kuyabonakala ukuthi induna ngathi ayikashiya imuntu noma mhlawumbe ikhona kusho ukuthi isese late cha kucela abahlonishwa induna lehloniphekile i-order paper siyikhipha kube nemalanga ngiyethemba bangiva bo minister i-order paper siyikhipha kube nemalanga ayihlale phansi induna i-order paper siyikhipha kube nemalanga bo minister bayibone ematiko ayibone asikakubhekile ukuthi nase sifike eParliament bese kuba nesitsitsi ufanele nje kwateke ukuthi induna nangaba yikho icele bani ngoba uyibonile i-order paper so kumgcoka abahlonishwa ukuthi siyinake i-order paper ibusiness lebalulekile elive indzaba yeParliament induna lehloniphekile yelitiko laka Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
Ngiyabonga umqondisi becela kwethulela indvuna yaka Natural Resources umqondisi.
Nduna lehloniphekile funza lapha kule order paper nduna bese uyaqhubeka.
Ngiyabonga umqondisi ngicela ukwethula Eswatini Water Services Corporation Annual Report 2024. Ngiyacela umqondisi.
Sibonga kakhulu nduna ayiqhubeke induna. Sibonga Minister, Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, we have tabling of bills. The first bill is the Appropriation Bill 2025, Bill number 1 of 2025. The second one is the Supplementary Bill 2025, Bill number 2 of 2025. The third one is the Finance Amendment Bill 2025, Bill number 3 of 2025. The fourth one, it's the Alcohol and Tobacco Levy Amendment Bill 2025, Bill number 4 of 2025. All these bills are going to be tabled by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Honourable Minister for Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, may I please, with the Leader of the House, table the Appropriation Bill of 2025, Bill number 1 of 2025, the Supplementary Bill 2025, Bill number 2 of 2025, the Finance Amendment Bill 2025, Bill number 3 of 2025, and the Alcohol and Tobacco Levy Amendment Bill 2025, Bill number 4 of 2025. And Honourable Speaker, all of these come with certificates of urgency.
Sibonge nduna lehloniphekile ingaqhubeka induna iwethule ema reports ema bills. Thank you, Minister for Finance. Honourable Lobamba Lomtsa.
Mr. Speaker, I think in view of the urgency, Yale supplementary bill, I would humbly request that before the end of business today, Ibeko a reference to, the second reading of the bill. Thank you.
Sibonge mhlonishwa wakalobamba lomtsala kulandela ukuthi athebulishwe nge-certificate of urgency ngibahlonishwa ngethemba ngiko-ke umhlonishwa enda le request. Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, the next item on the order paper, we have orders of the day. The Government Bill, the Appropriation Bill 2025, Bill number 1 of 2025, first reading, presented with a certificate of urgency by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Honourable Minister for Finance, when is the first reading?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. With your permission and the leave of the House, may it please be forthwith.
Sibonge nduna lehloniphekile bahlonishwa, it has been moved ukuthi le bill kube forthwith kusetshenzwa kwayo. Labavumelana lokho abathi aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
Honourable members, on page 3 of the order paper, we have the Appropriation Bill 2025, Bill number 1 of 2025, second reading by the Honourable Minister for Finance. There is also a budget speech which is going to be presented by the Honourable Minister for Finance.
Sibonge bahlonishwa, le bill seyivele bahlonishwa iku second reading. Nduna lehloniphekile yetemafa, you can go ahead with your budget speech.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my great honour and privilege to present to this esteemed House my second budget speech and national budget estimates for the 2025-2026 financial year at the second session of this 12th Parliament for the Kingdom of Eswatini. Mr. Speaker, I humbly stand before you today and give all thanks and glory to our Heavenly Father for His spirit of unity over our nation. We thank Him for His mercy and the promises of His word in these uncertain times. The scripture for this year's speech is taken from Romans 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. Our united prayer today is for the transformation of our minds to seek and find God's perfect will for our nation, to take us into His promised land that He has prepared for us. We acknowledge that this is no easy task. There are rivers to cross, sacrifices to be made, and giants to conquer. However, we also know that if we seek His presence, His will, and His wisdom, that nothing is impossible for us. Mr. Speaker, this promise is not possible without the mandate and wisdom from His Majesty for us to stop wandering in the desert and to enter the promised land of unity, transformation, and opportunity. His Majesty the King has given us His command in His speech from the throne at the opening of Parliament. And Honourable Speaker, we're aligned with His vision for our nation. In doing so, His Majesty has commanded that we improve service delivery, fight corruption, and prioritise the youth, the elderly, and the unemployed. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank His Excellency, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, and my colleagues in Cabinet for their tireless efforts in supporting me in the preparation of this budget and in faithfully executing His Majesty's vision for our country. Mr. Speaker, this budget was made possible by the dedication and expertise of the team at the Ministry of Finance and many other organizations and professional groups that presented expert briefs during the budget formulation meetings in their respective line ministries, especially the Planning and Budgeting Committee, what refers PBC. I wish to extend my sincere gratitude to all of them. Mr. Speaker, following the very successful national events, emboldened by His Majesty's Nkwe Declaration, I can confidently say that the Kingdom of Eswatini is poised for economic growth. The domestic economy is growing at an impressive rate, and the nation stands united against a backdrop of peace and stability. It's now incumbent on us to continue to put the policies and budgets in place to grow the economy, create jobs, and improve service delivery and uplift our people. Mr. Speaker, I must caution, however, that never in my 7 years of presenting the budget has the world seemed less certain or more fragmented. At regional, continental, and global level, countries are at odds and ideologies are colliding. Economies are straining under the yoke of protectionism and nationalism. What used to seem certain is now being tested and dismantled on a global stage in real time. However, we need to remain steadfast in our faith, dedicated to our national identity, and uncompromising in our pursuit of growing our economy and aligning with our principles and allies. Mr. Speaker, it'll be remiss of me to promise this honourable House that our journey will be easy, or that crossing into the promised land will be without pain or sacrifice. We still have to confront and defeat the giants of corruption, mediocrity, and not providing enough job opportunities for our youth. The theme for this year's budget is transformation for growth. Transformation demands that we admit our failings and strive to do things better. This budget is made up of the recurrent budget and a capital budget. It is the capital budget that has the biggest impact on growth. For this reason, Cabinet has been very intentional by increasing the recurrent budget by 8.4%, which excludes the contingency fund, and the capital budget by 14.4%. This is why we can confidently say that this budget is a pro-growth budget. Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure today to announce that our economy is predicted to grow at 8.3% in 2025-2026. This is against a solid growth figures of 5% in growth in 2023 and 4.8% growth in 2024. This will be a remarkable achievement as it's the highest predicted GDP growth in the region and one of the highest in the world. We have laid the foundations to ensure that this growth is both sustainable and achievable. Growing our economy allows us to spend more on critical needs like health and education. It allows us to safely and sustainably borrow more to improve our infrastructure and enables us to assist more vulnerable people in our communities. If we don't continue to grow our economy, we'll not be able to create more jobs, provide more services, or improve our quality of life. This sustained economic performance is translated to allowing an increase of expenditure by 3.19 billion emalangeni, or 10.9%. And even though we are borrowing more, because our economy is growing faster than our debt, the debt to GDP ratio, in fact, stabilizes at 40.5%. Mr. Speaker, you'll recall that there was a strong call at Sibaya for Eswatini at community level to have input in the budget. I'm grateful that for the first time ever, this process has kicked off in 2024. The approach was to sensitize all Eswatini on the government budgeting processes. The Planning and Budgeting Committee met with the chiefs, with the MPs, Dinduna Tetinkundla, and the Community Development Councils in all the 4 regions of the country on this subject. Mr. Speaker, the government is happy to report that Eswatini is qualified for the World Bank International Development Agency, what we refer to as IDA funding. This funding is highly concessional, as 40% of it is grant and 60% is a loan. This year, our IDA window is $27 million US. Our fiscal prudence and business-friendly approach has meant that our economy has been rewarded with an upgrade in the country's sovereign credit rating from B3 to B2 by Moody's rating agency. This means that Eswatini has been recognized as a safer and better place to invest and do business, and it reduces our cost of borrowing. Mr. Speaker, Eswatini also made history this year when our first sovereign bond was registered with the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. The bond was oversubscribed, meaning that investors were expressing their confidence in the sustainable economic future of our country. With the Moody's country upgrade, our Johannesburg Stock Exchange rating was also upgraded to investment grade. This should also reduce the cost of our bonds and broaden the market. Mr. Speaker, despite our Southern Africa Customs Union receipts declining by 2.6 billion emalangeni, we've been able to close the gap by relying on our SACU Stabilization Fund. The fund currently stands at 2.5 billion emalangeni, and 1 billion emalangeni will be drawn down to support this budget. Again, Eswatini is picking the fruit of good seed that was planted. But we need to remain vigilant as this year we are budgeting
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds, full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, to feel the rush of life overwhelm you, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. You ask, and we give you the royal experience. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. There are but a few places on earth so special, so unique, and so spectacular, where it becomes the rite of passage for the ambitious travelers, the courageous souls, to all have the one and only royal experience. That day when you look deep into your heart and leap into an ancient world so very different from your own, where magic, beauty, and love are shared forever, then you will have a royal experience. There is just one place on earth where the people make you feel a part of their kingdom, where you just might volunteer to awaken spirits, enrich minds, and work alongside communities to build, motivate, and inspire. This is truly the royal experience. When you dream of a different world, beyond the ordinary, beyond time, discover just how far you'll go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
More. We all seek it. We dedicate our lives to achieving it. We want to grow more, accomplish more, experience more, and become more. This relentless pursuit drives us to innovate and improve. It's why we push the boundaries of what's possible, making today's dreams tomorrow's reality. Partner with a bank that sees beyond the possible and positions you to achieve more. Open an enterprise banking account and take your business to the next level. From startup to success. Because with Standard Bank, there's always more.
Lalela sikutshele dindzaba tibuye enkosini uyeswana ninebe kunene kulandzela simemetelo semaganu samhla ka7 emakhosi sabusise emalanga lamasha kuyo indlovane uSokandaba lutsango lonke lakawowo aliphele sigodlweni ebuhleni umhlathi ngama20 nalunye kuyothi mhlathi ngama22 engomeni yakhe umhlathi ngama20 nathi nsathu ayachithwa amabutho bophezulu kwemkhono usho njalo umswathi lomnyama kubakala uthuli hulo tumanda basembelebeleni, hulo tumanda basemampontweni, bayethe wena phakathi.
Phezu komkhono. Phezu komkhono. Ngekubusisa kwawo emakhosi. Libi uthole luthango lufanele ukuthi livunule lihiya leli orange ngemgcibelo bese ngelisondo livunula lihiya leli bovu. Ningembathe mabhadubhadu luthango nibe bahle. Bayethe bayethe wena phakathi.
thereby heightening economic vulnerabilities for most countries. However, supportive financial conditions emanating from a less restrictive monetary policy stance, as well as a robust labor markets in the United States, have offset the downward revision in major economies. Hence, global growth is projected to rise from 3.2% in 2024 to 3.3% in 2025 and 2026. It's according to the IMF and World Bank Economic Outlook. Similarly, the sub-Saharan Africa region economic activity is projected to grow by 3.8% in 2024 and further rise to 4.2% in 2025 and 2026, reflecting the easing inflationary pressures and less restrictive financial conditions. South Africa's growth is projected to rise from 0.8% in 2024 to 1.5% and 1.6% in 2025 and 2026 respectively, owing to the waning effects of load shedding and improved logistics, which would support the rebound in economic activity and thus also improving demand for Eswatini's exports. The domestic economy reflected resilience as economic activity rebounded strongly in 2023. Real gross domestic product, GDP, increased by 5% from a contraction of 0.1% in 2022. In 2023, growth was strongly underpinned by increasing domestic demand induced by national events. These events spurred activities in some of the demand-driven sectors such as the information and communication and wholesale and retail. Government operations also reflected a rebound in the period backed by the improved fiscal stance in line with higher SACA receipts, as well as the increased demand for government services associated with the election activities. Similarly, mining activities increased in 2023, contributing 0.36 percentage points to overall real GDP growth. The sector benefited from expansions and new investments in coal production. On the contrary, agriculture production slumped in 2023, with the sector affected by increasing erratic weather conditions during the farming season. Maize production declined by 33%, while sugarcane output contracted by 2.7% in this period. According to the latest predictions, GDP projection review of January 2025, real GDP growth in 2024 will be 4.8%, which was previously projected at 3.6% in September 2024. Manufacturing activity is expected to have sustained the growth momentum in 2024, mainly the manufacture of sugar, as well as the manufacturing of chemicals, rebounding from a slow growth in 2023. Similarly, primary activity, including the growth of crops in the agriculture and forestry subsectors, is expected to slightly rebound in anticipation of better yields, mainly in the sugar industry, previously affected by unfavorable weather conditions. On the contrary, growth in the service sectors is expected to have slowed in 2024 on account of 2023's base effects linked to the national elections. The slowdown in activity will be observed in sectors such as wholesale and retail, reflecting winding down of consumption demand, as well as public administration, due to lower hiring compared to 2023. Mr. Speaker, positive economic prospects are envisaged as in the medium term, as economic activity is projected to accelerate by an average of 5.4 percentage points between 2025 and 2027. The medium-term growth will be supported by expansions in energy-related projects, as well as the upscaled implementation of public sector investment projects such as the Mbageni Dam under the MNWAB project, construction of the MR14 and MR21 roads, construction of the Parliament building, the Strategic Oil Reserve, as well as the completion of the International Conference Centre and the five-star hotel, amongst others. Domestic real GDP is projected to peak at 8.3% in 2025 from a growth of 4.8% in 2024. The significant acceleration in economic growth is largely accounted for by the upscaled construction activity of the earmarked projects and is projected to directly contribute 2.5 percentage points to the overall growth outcome in 2025. In 2025, other supporting sectors such as transportation, quarried stone production, manufacturing of construction material, wholesale and retail, and financial services will also benefit from the construction activity and contribute positively to the overall outcome. In the primary sector, double-digit growth is expected for mining and quarrying and forestry activities. The mining and quarrying subsector growth will be on account of expansions in coal mining and anticipated increase in quarried stone production to support construction activities, primarily of the big dams and the planned roads. GDP growth is projected to slow down in the outer years to 4.8% in 2026 and 3.1% in 2027, as projected by our macro forecasting team. The envisaged deceleration in economic growth is on account of high base effects from 2025, coupled with the completion of some projects with prospectively slower replacement ratios. The implementation of public and private projects, in other words, the energy projects, the roads, the dams, and other infrastructure projects, will continue in the medium term and conditional on availability of funding. The mining sector is expected to maintain strong growth, buoyed by increased production in coal and exploration of other minerals. The tourism sector is expected to recover to pre-COVID levels and maintain steady growth in the medium term. Strong growth is also expected in the textile industry, driven by expansions in factory shells and a better penetration of markets, particularly the US market under AGOA. The government will be very intentional to counter these lower projected figures by targeting the pro-growth sectors like mining, ICT, and agriculture. Mr. Speaker, domestic inflationary pressures eased in 2024 as headline inflation averaged 4% in the year compared to an average of 5% in 2023. This was mainly attributable to the slowdown in food inflation, which fell from 8.9 percentage points from 12.8% in 2023 to 3.9% in 2024. On the other hand, inflation for housing rentals and utilities increased from 4.8% in 2023 to 7% in 2024, as the of 3 to 6% in the short to medium term. In the medium term, international oil prices are expected to remain below $75 a barrel due to a reduction in global demand and elevated global oil production. The rand exchange rate to the US dollar is anticipated to be stable in the medium term. However, it faces a higher risk of volatility and mild depreciation due to the uncertainty surrounding US policies over the next 4 years. Upside pressure on the inflation outlook is still expected, mainly due to anticipated hikes in administered prices, such as electricity and water tariffs in 2025. The inflation forecasts are envisaged to increase, averaging slightly above 4.5% for both 2025 and 2026. External sector projections indicate that Eswatini's current account balance will post a surplus of 956.7 million emalangeni in 2024, following a current account surplus of 1.9 billion recorded in 2023. The 2024 current account surplus is informed by a projected trade surplus of 3.8 billion emalangeni, as exports continue to grow faster than imports. Data for January to November 2024 indicates that leading export commodities, namely soft drink concentrates and sugar, which account for over 60% of total exports, have performed well in 2024. Eswatini's main trading partner for exports and imports is South Africa, as 70% of merchandise goods are sold and received from that market. Our country's positive merchandise trade balance is, however, eroded by the growing deficit of the services account balance, which emanates mainly from multinationals sourcing valuable services from outside the country. SACO receipts continue to influence the current account balance. However, SACO receipts are projected to decline from 2025-2026 financial year into the outer years. This, coupled with an increase in payments for services, is expected to weaken the current account balance going forward. The Central Bank of Eswatini pursued an accommodative stance in 2024, reducing the discount rate by a cumulative 50 basis points. The bank reduced the discount rate by 25 basis points to 7.25% in September 2024, and another 25 basis points to 7% in November 2024. This stance was broadly in line with the easing of global and regional monetary policy conditions. The lower domestic inflation outcomes and the improved inflation outlook for the domestic economy. Consequently, commercial banks reduced the prime lending rate by some 0.5% in November 2024, a conducive policy stance to boost credit extension to the private sector, hence economic growth. In executing its mandate, the central bank remains cognizant of the need to strike a balance between maintaining price and financial stability while supporting domestic economic growth. The bank remains conscious of the monetary policy that the monetary policy is anchored on a fixed exchange rate regime, hence remains committed to curbing capital flight to protect the reserves and ensure that the one-on-one peg of the Lilangeni to the South African rand is maintained. The short to medium term monetary policy outlook remains uncertain with a downward bias. However, the global environment remains highly fluid with geopolitical tension, which, if they escalate, can cause supply chain disruptions and reversals in the disinflation path. Following the successful listing of the 4 billion South Africa Rand bond program on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, a total of 400 million rands was raised in May 2024 for a period of 3 years, and these funds have helped the government meet some of its financing needs. The government will be going back to the South African stock market soon for further issuance. It's expected that the conditions are likely to become more favorable following the improvement of the country's credit rating on the domestic and international front and the declining interest rate environment. The government of Eswatini's long-term local currency and foreign currency issuer rating was upgraded in November 2024 from B3 to B2. The rating of our bonds on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange has improved to investment grade. This improved credit rating was due to a good track record of the country's fiscal policy effectiveness, which had led to an improved fiscal trajectory and government's commitment to fiscal consolidation and institutional reforms such as the SACO Stabilization Fund and the clearing of arrears. Eswatini's stock of gross official reserves improved markedly in the 2024-2025 financial year, mainly due to higher SACO revenues, increased foreign currency trades with local banks, as well as internal investment swap with a local non-bank institution. Consequently, gross official reserves increased by 19.2% year-on-year between April and November of 2024, from an average growth of 8.1% over the same period in 2023. However, the average import cover fell from 2.7 months in the first 8 months of 2023-2024 to 2.5 months over the same period in 2024-2025, mainly due to the sharper increase in the country's importable. In the short to medium term, gross official reserves are expected to remain under pressure due to the anticipated decline in SACO revenues in 2025-2026 and the persistent rise of imports. Mr. Speaker, in pursuit of financial inclusion and economic growth, the country has licensed MTN fintech services as an authorized dealer with limited authority through the Central Bank of Eswatini. The system allows a Eswatini residing in South Africa to send money back home to support their families using their mobile phones, facilitating cross-border money transfers. This digital transformation solution will help close the gap between unbanked and traditional banking services while ensuring compliance with applicable laws and regulations. This year has also seen significant progress on the planned conversion of the Swaziland Building Society into a bank. Following SBS's annual general meeting, the voting results indicated that 94% of permanent shareholders supported the intention to convert to a bank. If this conversion milestone is ultimately achieved, the number of active banks in Eswatini will increase to 5. Mr. Speaker, the Eswatini banking sector remains profitable, with industry after-tax profits increasing by 7.9% year-on-year to 139.3 million emalangeni, compared to the previous year's 156.8 million emalangeni. The industry is well capitalized, with an industry capital adequacy ratio reported at 18.3% and common equity capital at 16.2%. These ratios satisfied the minimum regulatory requirements of 8% total minimum regulatory capital and 4.5% common equity capital, respectively, under the Basel II capital framework. The industry's non-performing loan ratio averaged 6.9%, marking a 0.2% increase from the previous quarter's 6.7%. The industry remains liquid and reports satisfactory liquidity levels above the statutory minimum requirements of 22% for commercial banks and 20.5% for development banks. The industry's liquidity increased by 34.8% compared to the previous year, which stood at 29.9%. The non-bank financial industry sector plays a pivotal role in the country's financial sector, holding assets valued at 106.1 billion emalangeni, equivalent to 71% of the financial sector's assets. Pension funds and insurance companies grew by 11.6%, with pension assets reaching 50.1 billion emalangeni. However, risks such as asset concentration and exposure to foreign markets persist, particularly for pension funds heavily invested overseas. The short-term insurance sector faces profitability challenges. Through the long-term segment remains resilient. Transparency concerns and dependence on unsecured household credit, which constitutes 51.6% of household debt, are key challenges requiring careful oversight. Mr. Speaker, the annual growth in private sector credit extension slowed down between April and October 2024, in part due to the rapid rise in inflation in 2022 and 2023. Year on year, the average growth in private sector credit decelerated from 10% between April and October 2023 to an average of 8.8% in the same period in 2024. Growth in the private sector credit was driven both by business and the household sector. Credit to business increased at an average of 12.7% year on year, driven by sectors such as manufacturing, transport and communications, distribution and tourism, as well as community, social, and personal services. Annual growth in credit to households stood at 6% at the backdrop of improved motor vehicle loans. In line with positive developments in private sector credit, broad money supply, which is the amount of money circulating in the economy, improved between April and October 2024 compared to 2023. Annual growth in broad money supply rose from 4.6% in the first 7 months of 2023-2024 to 10% in the same period of 2024-2025, as both quasi-money supply, which is liquid but not cash assets, and narrow money supply, which is money held by the central bank, expanded. In the short to medium term, growth in the private sector credit and money supply is expected to remain stable and positive respectively. Despite the relatively lower borrowing rates and improved economic growth in outer years, disposable incomes are forecasted to remain under pressure from global and regional factors. Mr. Speaker, the government has strategically focused on amplifying Eswatini's export footprint through the comprehensive trade agreements, including SACU, SADC, COMESA, and AFCFTA. A priority agenda includes concluding AFCFTA negotiations, particularly in sensitive categories, and advancing tripartite free trade area discussions. Key to the strategy is the execution of plans such as the AFCFTA implementation strategy and the SADC EU Economic Partnership Agreement strategy, which are underpinned by investor stakeholder engagement and capacity building workshops. SEDCO's pivotal role in MSME advancement is marked by programs such as the Entrepreneur of the Year Awards and the Business Incubation Program, which foster enterprise development and digital integration. Legislative advancements, including the Citizens Economic Empowerment Act, further entrench the MSME sector's importance. Collaborative efforts with organizations like Junior Achievement underscores our commitment to nurturing youth entrepreneurship, ensuring MSMEs remain integral to socio-economic progress. The Eswatini Competitions Commission is instrumental in fostering a competitive business environment critical for economic vitality. By addressing anti-competitive practices and ensuring a level playing field through merger regulation, the Commission has bolstered investor confidence, as evidenced by the approval of 28 mergers in the 2024-2025 financial year. Consumer protection is equally prioritized with a 98% solution rate for complaints, substantial compensation for violations, and proactive market monitoring to curb excessive pricing and ensuring transparency. Mr. Speaker, the government's commitment to enhancing intellectual property administration is pivotal to transforming Eswatini into an export-driven, diversified economy. The operationalization of the Eswatini Copyright and Neighboring Rights Society aims to ensure artists benefit from royalties, thereby stimulating economic growth and addressing youth unemployment. The cooperative sector, which will receive a significant boost of 30 million emalangeni in support from the German Cooperative and Raiffeisen Confederation, including the establishment of a local office and a cooperative bank. This financial and technical backing is poised to strengthen the cooperative's movement's role in economic development. Mr. Speaker, the construction of the Johnson Workwear factory shell is on track for completion within 6 months. Once operational, this facility is expected to create over 2,000 jobs. Additionally, the reconstruction of the previously burned down factory shell at Tlatikulu has been completed, potentially providing employment for 450 individuals. Other operations at the Kamula factory shell are set to have commenced in January, while the Nzevane factory shell has recently been finalized, with an anticipated workforce of slightly over 1,000 employees. The development of factory shells at Ngwenya and Pigs Peak are being finalized, which are projected to offer employment opportunities for approximately 1,450 people, respectively. Mr. Speaker, a strategic policy has been adopted of constructing 10 factory shells annually. This initiative is expected to attract investments totaling 1.047 billion emalangeni and generate approximately 4,000 new employment opportunities each year. In this budget, we have provided 140 million emalangeni for the construction of factory shells. Mr. Speaker, government spending on health care is undeniably crucial for the well-being of our nation. Tremendous progress has been made in reducing and managing the spread of HIV, TB, malaria, and other diseases. Indicators show that currently, 97% of people living with HIV know their HIV status. 98.3% of people with a known HIV positive diagnosis receive antiretroviral therapy, and 98.4% of people receiving ARTs are virally suppressed. In addition, 64% of the clients initiated on ARTs have reported to have disclosed the HIV status to their family members, sexual partners, or other colleagues. Such gains are commendable and need to be sustained going forward. Mr. Speaker, TB accounts for nearly 1/3 of all AIDS-related deaths, making it a leading cause of mortality in people living with HIV. Hence, we should ensure that TB interventions are effective. It's encouraging that the TB treatment success rate currently stands at 84%, illustrating an improvement of about 4 percentage points from the figure last reported. Mr. Speaker, the nation cannot prosper if our children are not healthy and protected. At present, the national immunization coverage, as measured by the DPT-3 proxy indicator, is at 67%, and full immunization coverage is at 68%, according to the MR1 proxy indicator. In order to reduce mortality of those under 5 years old, our vaccination programs will continue to be supported. The human papillomavirus is the leading cause for cervical cancer in women and girls globally. To deal with this, the government took a policy decision to vaccinate girls between 9 and 14 years of age against this disease. Remarkable progress has been made as the vaccination rate is at 73.6% nationally. In the third quarter of 2024-25 financial year, a second dose of the same age group was introduced for immune-compromised girls. The plan is to extend immunization against HPV to ages 15 to 20 in 2025-2026. Mr. Speaker, we are now facing a relatively new phenomenon on the rise of non-communicable diseases, what we refer to as NCDs. This calls for the strengthening of prevention and health promotion programs and interventions, as well as the adoption of a healthy lifestyle by every Liswati. Significant progress is being made in repurposing the former TB hospital in Manzini to an NCD facility. A high dependency unit has been completed and preparations are ongoing to conduct the radiation oncology department, to construct that department, the nuclear medicine section. The high dependency unit is meant to cater for critically ill NCD patients, including those with cancer and those that have suffered from a stroke, amongst other complications. Tertiary health services in the country have been improved through the hiring of more medical specialists and commissioning of 2 new theatres in the new referral and emergency complex at the Mbaban Government Hospital. It is anticipated that the number of referred medical cases to neighbouring countries will decrease, thereby reducing the expenditure on the Palala Fund scheme. Government has been able to ensure that complicated medical cases continue to be transferred for treatment. There's also been an additional 12 ambulances to assist with the transfer of patients to healthcare facilities. To bring quality health services closer to the communities, the Hlatikulu Public Health Unit was structured and has been completed and commissioned. Rehabilitation of wards 4 and 5 at the National Psychiatric Hospital and renovations to the outpatient department at Lebombo Referral Hospital were also completed. The network of health facilities shall be improved through the completion and operationalization of Ndondozi, New Haven, and Induna Yitini clinics. Mr. Speaker, we acknowledge the challenges that we are all facing in the delivery of medicines to eMaswati that are in dire need. Even though efforts have been made to correct this, these efforts still seem insufficient as there's still an outcry of the shortage of drugs. We plan to solve this persistent problem by transforming the central medical stores into a semi-autonomous entity. With assistance from the Global Fund, the government has engaged a consultant who is currently working on the logistics for the transformation. This will ensure that medicines are bought on time, at the right price, are correctly stored, are tracked from CMS all the way through to the patient, and it'll heavily reduce the amount of medicines expiring. An allocation of 40 million emalangeni has been provided in this budget specifically for this transformation. Mr. Speaker, the 90 days pause of funding from US aid has caused a lot of stress in the system, and as we've become reliant on this funding. The US government's PEPFAR program has funded critical health staffing, systems, and health commodities for HIV treatment and prevention. Fortunately, the US government recently reinstated limited portions of its funding for urgent life-saving HIV care and treatment services. We continue to work closely with the US Embassy during this difficult time. In the medium term, the government will embark on the following priority areas: establishment of a National Public Health Institute to lead and coordinate essential public health functions, sustain Eswatini's Prevention Center clinical research site, rehabilitation of maternity theatres at Matanjeni, Mkuzweni, Nhlangano Health Center, and treatment plant for Dvogoluago Health Center, operationalization of the neonatal intensive care unit at the Mbabane Government Hospital, and the construction of the radiation oncology department and nuclear medicine section. Government is allocating 3.1 billion emalangeni to the health sector to implement the above and other priority areas. Mr. Speaker, the Employment Bill, which seeks to repeal the Employment Act of 1980, was tabled in Parliament as Bill number 7 of 2023. Unfortunately, the 11th Parliament was dissolved before the completion of the legislative process. Cabinet has approved the bill, and we shall be tabling it to this August House soon. Mr. Speaker, the budget allocates an additional 55.3 million emalangeni to the scholarship program to cater for the additional intake of 1,000 students awarded study loans for the 2024-2025 academic year. This has raised the number up to 4,450 students for local institutions, including 80 students who will be studying outside the country to support the acquisition of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, often referred to as STEM, rare skills, which are not offered in the country. Government has allocated a total of 702.35 million emalangeni for scholarships in the 2025-26 financial year. There are currently 18 regulated sectors of the economy and the same number of wages councils that are appointed by the Minister of Labour and Social Security. The wages councils are comprised of a tripartite, sorry, Mr. Speaker, I'm getting that four times round. I got fourth time lucky. Tripartite, yeah. Structure whereby the government, employers, and workers each have 6 representatives to facilitate negotiations of wages and other minimum terms and conditions of service. The 18 wages councils have over the last 2 years managed to diligently carry out their work such that the percentage range of negotiated increases of the minimum wages for 2023 averaged between 4% and 20% and between 5% and 20% in 2024. This has resulted that the average minimum wage has increased by 8.8% annually for the past 2 years. With this increase being about double the inflation figures, we believe that it's going to reduce the percentage of inequality in Eswatini. Government will also construct 2 trade testing workshops, which will be used to test apprentices and artisans in the welding and plumbing fields. This will help clear the huge backlog of apprentices waiting to be grade tested, and in turn contributes to a reduction of youth unemployment. A budget has been provided of 821.76 million emalangeni to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to execute its mandate. Mr. Speaker, the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini remains steadfast in ensuring that quality education remains accessible to all in Maswati. Government has continued to employ teachers, especially those who have been on contracts for long periods of time, according to the needs in different schools. This has systematically been done using the Human Resource Information Management System, which uses identity numbers of employees. In the previous financial year, a total of 364 teachers were converted to permanent and pensionable positions. Mr. Speaker, following the ongoing pilot of the 4-year secondary program, the government will be introducing qualifications beyond EGCSE in 2026, wherein 4 out of 7 earmarked secondary schools will be offering A, S, and A levels. The rollout will follow a staggered approach, starting with 1 school in each region. These are Mhlume, Mhlatane, Manzini Nazarene, and Evelyn Baring High School. At Sibaya, the quality of education and other learning platforms were highly criticized for lacking relevance, exemplified by the increase in graduates' unemployment rates. To this end, the government has commissioned a high-level committee of experts to propose a transformation program for the education sector. The education transformation will ensure that the education system produces graduates that are skilled to make sustainable livelihoods for themselves and for others. Mr. Speaker, we are aware of the difficulties at UNESWA. The University of Eswatini continues to face a number of challenges despite the increase in subventions in the recent years. The challenges include poor financial management, non-remittance of medical aid and pensions payable for personnel, poor research output, and archaic academic programs, to mention a few. The state of affairs has led to numerous class boycotts and has greatly compromised the quality of education and the university's global rankings. In order to solve the UNESCO crisis permanently and ensure that the university gets back to its former glory, the government commissioned a task team to investigate the issues and come up with pragmatic recommendations. To this end, the task team has presented an interim report, and the government will commission a forensic audit while also implementing some of the short-term recommendations proposed by the task team interim report. Government is allocating 4.2 billion emalangeni to the recurrent budget and 316 million emalangeni to the capital budget to the Ministry of Education and Training. The government has increased the budget for school feeding by 33 million emalangeni. In addition, 194 million has been allocated for the OVC fund and 702.35 million emalangeni for scholarships, equaling a total of 5.41 billion emalangeni for the provision of education and training for all levels in the country. This represents a 16.6% of the total budget spent on educating Yamaswati. Mr. Speaker, government has continued to support the vulnerable populations through cash transfers to elderly persons and persons with disabilities. Currently, there are 84,740 elderly grant beneficiaries and 17,468 beneficiaries of grants for persons with disabilities, referred to as PWDs. In line with His Majesty's pronouncement, this financial year, government has allocated an additional 105 million emalangeni to cater for the increase in the elderly grant received by the elderly, which is a 20% increase, mainly to cushion the cost of living adjustments experienced throughout the economy, adding 100 emalangeni to the current 500 emalangeni monthly, bringing it up to 600 emalangeni per month. Government also budgeted to increase the number of persons with disabilities receiving the national grant by 2,500 and adding 50 emalangeni to each recipient, raising the monthly amount received to 450 emalangeni. For the 2025-2026 financial year, the government of Eswatini will move all beneficiaries to the mobile money platform, referred to as MOMO, for grant payments to ensure efficiency and a cost reduction amounting to about 2.9 million emalangeni per annum. Following the submissions made during the Sibaya National Dialogue, the government, through the Deputy Prime Minister's Office, has conducted a community outreach program in all 4 regions to identify vulnerabilities and other social ills that require immediate social protection interventions. Among the key deliverables to the poor and vulnerable population is the provision of a decent shelter. Through the support of partners, in the current year, the government, through the DPM's office, has managed to construct 20 houses for the needy and vulnerable people, including elderly persons, persons with disabilities, and child-headed households. In the 2025 to 2026 financial year, government has made an allocation towards the construction of houses with backyard gardens, fencing, and water tanks to promote water harvesting in order for households to access clean and safe drinking water. Mr. Speaker, the government of Eswatini is committed to inclusiveness and mainstreaming of disability issues in both the public and private sector. Government has launched the National Disability Plan of Action from 2024 to 2028, which will guide the nation in implementing policies and development programs that are inclusive. The plan aims at promoting and protecting the fundamental rights and empowerment on socioeconomic issues for all persons with disabilities. In collaboration with the UN development partners, the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini received 13 million emalangeni to strengthen the services provided in the education and health sectors on human capital development of persons with disabilities. To deliver on the mandate for the PWDs, the government of Eswatini has provided the budget to establish the Secretariat and ensure that the office delivers the aspirations of the PWDs as specified in the National Plan of Action. Mr. Speaker, the government has allocated 1.07 billion emalangeni to the Deputy Prime Minister's office in order to continue with these essential services of taking care of the most vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, agriculture remains the industry that could have can have the biggest positive impact on our economy in the short term. We have tens of thousands of hectares of unused terraced agriculture land in Eswatini, and we have a big unemployment problem. This is a recipe for a wonderful win-win if we could farm economically on small pieces of land. Many countries in the East have large percentages of their population successfully farming on small pieces of land economically. We have spoken about this many times over the years, but with food security being a focus area in the program of action, the Ministry of Agriculture is now starting a few projects to deal with this. One of them is a smallholder agriculture productivity and market enhancement project, what we refer to as SWAPEMP, which is scheduled to launch in May 2025 through the Eswatini Water and Agriculture Development Enterprise, EWADE. This project has a budget allocation of 60.4 million emalangeni. SWAPEMP aims to empower over 17,000 smallholder farmers, particularly in the vulnerable southeastern regions of the country. Mr. Speaker, the IDA funding referred to earlier will be used for another youth agriculture project. We have provided 50 million emalangeni in this year's budget for this project will be taking off soon. The government has allocated 65 million to the National Maize Corporation in the 2025-2026 financial year for the input subsidy and tractor hire program, which is designed to benefit smallholder farmers in the sector. A provision of 40 million emalangeni has been made in the budget for commercial maize farming and 14 million to add to the Hambabuya project funding. An additional 10 million has been allocated to top up the Agriculture Development Fund. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Republic of China on Taiwan for its generous support in establishing the Aquaculture Research and Production Center in Malkerns. This initiative will significantly enhance fish production in Eswatini. The center will focus on developing innovative systems to increase productivity, producing fingerlings for distribution to fish farmers, and contributing to the eventual commercialization of fish production nationwide. The Republic of China on Taiwan has also given us a grant of 51.5 million emalangeni for building 2 more grain silos in Eswatini. The construction of the Mpageni Dam, Phase 1A, is progressing as planned, and we are pleased to announce that the necessary financial resources for the main conveyance system, Phase 1B, has been secured from international financiers. The simultaneous implementation of both phases will ensure the efficient delivery of water to the targeted areas, with a dedicated budget allocation of 737.36 million emalangeni in the 2025-2026 financial year this project will be a transformative force for the Shiselweni region. Furthermore, Phase 1B of the Mkonongwa Water Augmentation Project, NWAB, will commence in 2025-2026, focusing on the construction of the main conveyance system to facilitate the efficient distribution of water upon completion of the Mpangeni Dam. This budget has also provided 46.5 million for the construction of medium and small dams around the country. The Lucid Phase 2 project remains a priority, with an additional budget of 230 million emalangeni. The project is currently in the process of installing in-field infrastructure, and its timely completion will be instrumental in delivering the anticipated benefits to our citizens. Mr. Speaker, livestock production continues to play a vital role in sustaining the livelihoods of our rural communities. Despite challenges posed by foot and mouth disease outbreaks in neighboring countries, Eswatini has successfully maintained its disease-free status. The government is actively working on the implementation of the Eswatini livestock value chain, which includes the rehabilitation of cordon fences funded by the European Union. A budget of 30.4 million has been provided for this. This initiative is crucial for the control and prevention of transboundary animal diseases, while also addressing concerns relating to stock theft. For the 2025-26 financial year, the government has allocated 1.65 billion emalangeni to the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the government of Eswatini is on a strong drive to finance water and sanitation projects to support economic, health, and social developments aligned with the National Development Plan and the Sustainable Development Goals. These projects are central to the government's efforts to achieve 100% safe drinking water coverage across the country. The government has implemented the Eswatini Water Supply and Sanitation Project, estimated to cost 1.2 billion emalangeni in the Shiselweni region. This project will benefit 49,230 people with improved water supply and sanitation. The project is expected to be completed by the end of 2026. Furthermore, the Lomahasha Namacha Water Supply Project aims to provide clean water to 46,500 people by the end of 2025, benefiting communities in Lomahasha, which is in Eswatini, and Namacha, which is in Mozambique, and along the pipeline route, which is in Eswatini. Another major project is the Manzini Region Water and Sanitation Project, which is financed by the ADB. The cost of this project is estimated to be 1 billion emalangeni, and the objective of the project is to meet potable water requirements of Manzini and the surrounding areas, covering Mtongwaneni, Manzini South, Nhlambeni, Manzini North, and Mafutseni. The project is expected to benefit 110,000 people, and the expected date of completion is the end of 2025. This financial year, the Ministry of Natural Resources is partnering with World Vision to try to close the gap that still exists in the rural areas. We are grateful to that the World Vision has pledged a budget of 125 million emalangeni for the next 5 years to cover 15 tinkundla. The mining sector remains a subsector that has the potential to also significantly contribute to the economy. The multidisciplinary geoscience mapping project, the airborne electromagnetic, radiomagnetic, and magnetic survey for the Shiselweni and Lebombo regions has been successfully completed, except for a few areas that seem to have some mineral potential, and these will be explored through ground truthing. These areas are Shani Lomahasha and Lushikshini Dwalile. A geological and mining information system and an electronic document management system has been successfully developed for the ease and improved geoscientific data and information dissemination to mining investors. Mr. Speaker, in the financial year 2024-2025, Eswatini made significant strides in its energy sector, achieving a number of key milestones. Notably, 2 hydroelectric power plants are advancing, the 10 megawatt Maguga and the 13.6 megawatt Lower Makuduza plants. These projects, combined with existing 60 megawatts of hydro plants, will bring Eswatini's total hydroelectric capacity to 83.6 megawatts by 2027. The construction of the Maguga expansion project is set to run concurrently with the lower Makuduza development, contributing to the country's growing renewable energy capacity. In addition to hydropower, the EEC conducted a preliminary study on the potential for geothermal power generation, followed by geoscientific studies at 3 sites, Lobamba Mbuchini, Mkoba, and Lobombo Plateau. Eswatini is also advancing in its efforts to increase local generation capacity through small-scale embedded generation projects, allowing small power producers to feed electricity back into the grid. This initiative, alongside the hydro and geothermal developments, underscores the country's commitment to achieving a net zero emissions and boosting its local generation capacity. Mr. Speaker, the Rural Electrification Programme has continued to improve electricity access for communities, with 4,227 households electrified and 887 ready boards installed for households without electricity in the 2024-2025 financial year. On the transmission front, the construction of the Dwaleni Stonehenge 132 kVA line is nearing completion, and it's expected to be operational in the first quarter of 2025. This line will strengthen the power supply of the capital city and northern Eswatini. The regional electricity landscape remains challenging due to the climate change conditions that have reduced power generation in neighboring countries, like Zambia. This, coupled with high demand and a heat wave, has driven up electricity tariffs across the region. While climate change remains a challenge, the volatility of the electricity market means that tariffs will continue to be uncertain. Despite these challenges, Eswatini's commitment to self-sufficiency in electricity generation remains central to its energy strategy, which will continue to drive the country towards a greater energy independence and sustainability in line with the Programme of Action. Eswatini has also signed up with the Accelerating Sustainable and Clean Energy Access Transformation Programme, referred to as ASCENT, which is driven by the World Bank, African Development Bank, and the Rockefeller Foundation, which seeks to fast-track access by connecting 300 million people to electricity across the continent. Through this program, we envisage to have 100% electricity coverage in Eswatini by 2030. We have budgeted 80 million emalangeni for this. The Ministry of Natural Resources has been allocated a total budget of 1.57 billion emalangeni to implement its programs. Mr. Speaker, the tourism sector has continued to display strong performance, indicated by a growing interest in traveling to Eswatini from regional and international markets. Intercontinental visits rose significantly by 11.8% to 853,000 visits in 2024, reflecting an increase of 90,000 compared to 2023. This highlights the destination's appeal and the success of targeted advertising initiatives aimed at drawing visitors from all around the world. In the 2024-2025 financial year, the government has planned to complete the ICC. Unfortunately, we have failed to do so, but due to a variation in the scope of works. This year, we're providing 600 million to finalize the project and an additional 30 million emalangeni to operationalize the ICC. The government continues to provide regulatory oversight to ensure that all major infrastructural and economic development projects are subjected to environmental and social impact assessment, and comprehensive mitigation plans are developed to minimize adverse environmental and socio-economic harm. Mr. Speaker, government continues to provide an effective set of policies and regulatory frameworks to provide for enhanced environmental and human health protection. A comprehensive radiation safety bill has been developed and awaiting Parliament approval, and will be implemented to facilitate protection of the environment and humans from the negative effects of radiation. The government issued environmental grants with 2 million emalangeni to communities in all 4 regions, of the country through the Eswatini Environmental Fund. Furthermore, the government collaborated with communities to construct a total of 108 cleanup campaigns to conduct the campaigns. The footprint of the Eswatini Environment Fund has spread to fund environmental projects in communities across all 4 regions of the country, which has included seed funding for novel projects such as the Eswatini Reptile Education Center at Eswatini. The climate continues to change at an alarming rate, with extremes becoming more frequent and more severe. In recent years, damage to infrastructure and negative impacts on agriculture production have been observed. The need to minimize the impact cannot be overstated. We need to be more vigilant in our road and bridge construction, how and where we build our buildings, how we secure our assets to the ground, and even what crops we plant to be able to better prepare for climate change. Mr. Speaker, the government continues to fulfill its mandate in providing an enabling environment and socio-economic development by spearheading digital transformation, improving access to services, facilitating infrastructure developments, expanding connectivity, and keeping the nation informed, educated, and entertained. In the next 24 months, the government will endeavour to deliver the Government in Your Hand platform, integrating all government services into a one-stop online web portal. Self-service booths will be placed at Tinkundla centres, post offices, and public libraries. To deliver this platform, government has partnered with Google, a global tech leader, who will also capacitate the country's local developers from the Royal Science and Technology Park, Eswatini Innovators Association, and the Independent Young Innovators, creating a thriving innovation ecosystem. In the past year, government developed 7 applications that will be onboarded to the Government in Your Hand platform for various ministries, aiding improved service delivery in business registrations, deeds registration, and agriculture services, to name a few. Mr. Speaker, the government has made significant investments in infrastructure development, which lays a solid foundation for seamless government services. In the current financial year, 48 Tinkundla centres, 5 border gates, 5 rural clinics, 5 rural schools, and other government service centres have been connected to free Wi-Fi. Government plans to connect all remaining Tinkundla centres and extend the service to post offices and public libraries. A massive countrywide fibre optic rollout has begun. As we build a nation to be an information society and knowledge economy, bridging the digital divide, the government has offered several digital training programs and opportunities for different sectors of government and the nation at large. The country signed an MOU with the United Arab Emirates in September 2024, which has already yielded a number of capacity building initiatives. These include the Digital School Training Initiative of 50 teachers. More training has been scheduled for the coming years, including a coding school for the entire country, seeking to empower 300,000 Eswatini to learn coding in the next 2 years. This year will see us setting up various tech academies at RSTP with global leading brands such as Google, Amazon, and Eswatini UAE Academy. The government has launched the new Government Identity Manual in October 2024. This corporate manual is playing a major role in rebranding.
Sorry, Minister. Siyabonga Minister, ngena ungavuthola lithuba lekunathe mandi. Mhlonishwa Ndvunankhulu besicela mhlonishwa ukuthi we-invoke Standing Order 263 to suspend Standing Order 30 ukuze ukuthi umsebenzi utokhona kuchubeka.
Ngiyabonga Mr. Speaker, siyacela ukuthi si invoke Standing Order number 263 si suspend 30 singathathi ikhefu sichubeke ukuze ukuthi umsebenzi uphele. Siyabonga.
Sibonga kakhulu mhlonishwa Ndvunankhulu, sibonga abahlonishwa sekumuviwe ukuthi indlu invoke Standing Order 263 to suspend Standing Order 30 ukuze ukuthi induna yetemafa itochubeka icedzele ibudget labavumelana lokho abathi ayi Labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it and the ayes have it. Minister for Finance, please go ahead.
That was a close one of the ayes and the nays there.
Sorry, Minister. Angikhombutele once again etingcingweni tingcingo eParliament no siyakhombutana nje bakhumbule nalaba gallery sikhumbule nathi bahlonishwe tingcingo on silence please. Induna ehloniphekile, go ahead.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The government has launched the new government identity manual in October 2024. The corporate manual is playing a major role in rebranding, standardizing, and improving professionalism of the government. The government is branding its vehicles to ensure responsible use by government officials and reviving the email system to ensure government communication, improve trust and flexibility amongst other benefits. There's a small correction, Your Honourable Speaker. In the actual printed document, we found a small mistake, unfortunately, last night. And that is that this budget provides actually 354.34 million emalangeni to the Ministry of ICT for the rollout of all these targeted programs. So we just made a mistake of about 20 million. Mr. Speaker, even though the government has completed some major road construction projects in the past 2 years, more remains to be done to ensure the country's road network is not an impediment to the country's development in all 4 regions. One major road that is officially opened in 2024 is the Nhlangano-Skunuza Road, the MR13, after facing disruptions during the initial implementation period. All year-round accessibility to the entire country especially the rural areas, remains key. The government will continue to work towards the upgrading of several roads through various initiatives. The phased approach of upgrading some roads has brought significant changes to the Spotkosini-Mochane Road, which is the D78, and the Stegi-Tikuba Road, which is the D12. The Roads Authority Act of 2023 has set the tone for the establishment of the Roads Authority, a mechanism that is meant to improve the effectiveness of the country's road infrastructure maintenance. The government is on course to fully establish the entity. As of the 1st of March 2025, the Act has approved 40 cents to be added to the fuel price for it to be able to operate the Road Agency Fund so that maintenance of national roads, regional and local road infrastructure can be better executed. Mr. Speaker, the government's building stock also remains another area that requires attention from a property point of view. The current state of this infrastructure is not appealing to all, neither the users nor property custodians. An all-inclusive approach has been adopted to address the issue of public buildings maintenance to preserve the integrity and value. Government has made a provision of 371.67 million for road maintenance and major rehabilitation. We have provided 636.12 million for the construction of roads. We've provided 200 million for the surfacing of rural roads. We have provided 30 million emalangeni for micro projects to continue concreting roads in the rural areas. A total amount of 1.21 billion emalangeni has been provided in this budget for the road program. Mr. Speaker, the launch of the country's only commercial airliner is another milestone of the last 2 years, and it has the potential to grow into a regional carrier. The new routes to Durban, Cape Town, and Harare continue to enhance regional connectivity, driving trade and tourism. In the reporting period, which is April 2024 to December 2024, passenger traffic increased by 34%, with 73,926 passengers compared to 56,281 in the same reporting period in the previous financial year, while cargo volumes grew by 25%. The recognition by the African Airlines Association is a reflection that the airline has made its mark in the aviation landscape in the sub-region. In 2024, Eswatini signed 4 bilateral trade service agreements, to establish working relationships with other countries. This provides the national airline with the opportunity to start cooperating with airlines from these countries and possibly start new routes. Mr. Speaker, the Regional Development Fund, what referred to as RDF, has completed 53 projects, which consists of 10 income-generating projects and 43 infrastructure projects, benefiting 8,730 Eswatini directly and creating 445 jobs. The reconstruction program of Gukanyeni, Osia, Timbisini, Ngutseni, and Somtongo Tinkundla commenced during the 2024-2025 financial year and is anticipated to be completed in the 2025-2026 financial year. In the 2025-26 financial year, the government will continue to allocate 177 million to the Rural Development Fund, RDF, with an additional 60 million emalangeni towards clearing of the outstanding requests from the constituencies. 282.66 million has been allocated to Micro Projects Community Development Fund, what referred to as CDF. Government has allocated an amount of 532.7 million to the Ministry of Tinkundla Administration and Development in order to continue with rural development services and its decentralization mandate. Mr. Speaker, the government acknowledges the critical role that a national landscape characterized by law and order, as well as high levels of safety and security, plays in fostering both social and economic development. A secure environment is fundamental for building a prosperous nation, and the Royal Eswatini Police Service, REPS, remains committed to upholding this essential foundation. Mr. Speaker, it's worth noting that during the financial year 2024-2025, the police were able to achieve a 7% decrease in the volume of crime and a 14.5% reduction in premeditated crime. The police also made significant breakthroughs in addressing cyber-related crimes like the Fatata scam, along with other prioritized crimes like fraud, commercial crimes, housebreaking, and theft, amongst others. The Royal Eswatini Police Service aims to reduce crime by 3% annually through community-orientated policing. This will be achieved by strengthening the trust between our law enforcement and the community, while also fostering partnerships that address the root causes of crime and promote proactive solutions. Cooperation with the police to recognize, report, and fight crime and corruption will ensure that the effectiveness of their efforts is much higher and that the cost to government is lower. The Mbutfo Eswatini Defence Force will continue with its peacekeeping mandate and manning our security along all borders. Mr. Speaker, His Majesty's Correctional Services made several achievements during the 2024-2025 financial year, especially in relation to improved infrastructure, intensified security measures, self-sufficiency in some food production, enhanced rehabilitation, and reintegration programs for inmates. The Correctional Services embarked on several outreach programs which played a pivotal role in spreading the message of crime prevention and the negative impacts of gangsterism, drug abuse, and gender-based violence, helping to educate the public and promote positive change in our communities. The department has recorded a reduction in escapees and assaults due to effective security measures put in place, which include the training of 148 officers in supervisory courses, polygraph, and dog handling empowerment. Mr. Speaker, government has established a tripartite task team comprising of the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Royal Eswatini Police Service, and the Director of Public Prosecutions Office to investigate high-profile cases, and results are starting to show. Additionally, the government approved the secondment of 10 police officers to the ACC to address the ACC backlog of corruption cases, and plans are underway to ensure their smooth integration into the ACC's operations. These measures aim to enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of tackling corruption and high-profile cases. Mr. Speaker, it's my duty to present an overview of the financial landscape of our nation as we embark on another financial year. The national budget serves not only as a fiscal blueprint, but also as a commitment to uphold the principles of transparency, accountability, and stewardship of public resources. In this context, I'd like to highlight that the findings of the Auditor General's Office continues to provide critical insights into the financial health and efficiency of government entities. In the year 2024-2025 financial year, the audits have revealed significant progress in various ministries, departments, and agencies, reflecting a collective effort to enhance fiscal responsibility and governance. Improvements in financial reporting practices and the timely submission of financial statements have set a positive trajectory for the management of public funds. However, we must also recognize persistent challenges, including delays in implementing audit recommendations and areas where financial controls remain weak. One of the critical initiatives to strengthen financial controls and minimize weaknesses in the public financial management system has been a successful launch of UMSEBE, IFMIS, aimed at fortifying public financial management, enhancing accountability, and streamlining processes. Mr. Speaker, the audit plays a major role in strengthening parliamentary oversight, robust internal controls, strong operational systems in the public sector, and also improving public sector and investor confidence. The government continues to strengthen the Office of the Auditor General with capacity building and the employment of over 20 auditors in the current year. The Office of the Auditor General is the country's public spending watchdog, which supports Parliament in holding the government to account and helps improve public service through high-quality audits. Mr. Speaker, the country has made great strides with complying to the anti-money laundering and countering terrorism financing and proliferation financing financial action task force recommendations. In July 2024, Cabinet approved the AML CFT, National Risk Assessment, Policy, Strategic Plan, and Implementation Plan, which sets out the framework to curb financial crime. In order to further strengthen the AML CFT regime, the country has made great strides towards complying with the Anti-Money Laundering and promulgated the AML CFT Miscellaneous Amendments Act in 2024 that Parliament worked on and passed timelessly. Mr. Speaker, the payment switch project is ongoing and will be implemented in 3 phases. Firstly, fast payments. Secondly, open banking. And thirdly, card point of sale, what referred to POS, and ATM switching. The fast payments phase was launched on the 11th of December 2024 with 3 banks. The rest of the industry is expected to go live on fast payments during the first quarter of 2025. One will then notice that if you're making payments between banks in Eswatini, that transactions will reflect instantly on both sides of the transaction. Phase 2 of the national payment switch, open banking, which will commence in the first quarter of 2025. Upon the conclusion of this phase, the project will proceed to the implementation of the final phase. Open banking aims to expand access to certain accounts, wallets, and payment services to fintech, rather than just limiting it to current providers of accounts and digital wallets. Point of sale and ATM switching is the final phase of the project. This phase aims to localize the processing of domestic card transactions and enable the use of any ATM to certain financial services. Enable the use of any ATM to certain financial services. Phase 2 and 3 of the payment switch are expected to be implemented within the next 18 months. Mr. Speaker, financial inclusion data is essential for monitoring the progress of financial inclusion initiatives and measures its impact on the economy. To make this crucial information available, the Centre of Financial Inclusion will, in the current year, conduct a first-of-its-kind financial inclusion baseline survey. It's projected the findings of this important national survey will be launched in the third quarter of the 2025-2026 financial year. Mr. Speaker, through the Office of the Legal Aid Services, government has assisted walk-in clients with various legal issues, including civil, criminal, labour and administrative matters, by ensuring that they receive the necessary support pending representation in court in an effort to conform to human rights. The next plan is to decentralise the legal aid service to the Lubombo and Eswatini regions. In order to fast-track court cases using the electronic case management system, the civil and criminal components have been deployed, rendering the project to be 80% complete. Currently, primary focus is on obtaining the essential tools and equipment to initiate the pilot phase, which is crucial and will enable us to assess the system's performance prior to full rollout. Mr. Speaker, in the 2024-25 financial year, government revenue and grants are projected to amount to 27.79 billion emalangeni, corresponding to 31.1% of GDP. The projected revenue collection displayed an increase against the initial budget of 27.58. The increase in total revenue is largely caused by the administration efficiency of Eswatini Revenue Services, which is expected to improve tax collections. SACU increased from 11.75 billion in 2023-24 to 13.07 billion in 2024-2025, approximately 47.9% of the total revenue collected. Mr. Speaker, the government's total expenditure for the financial year 2024-25 was budgeted at 29.42 billion emalangeni. The revised budget at the end of the year stands at 29.41 billion, which is 32.9% of GDP. This is approximately 8.8% higher than the outturn of 2023-24. Mr. Speaker, the deficit for the financial year 2024-2025 is expected to improve to 1.8% of GDP from a budget of 2.1% of GDP. Whilst we've been able to fund part of this through local borrowing, a large part of it will be financed through external borrowing for budget support. Mr. Speaker, public debt management remains one of the key objectives of the Ministry of Finance, with the responsibility of mobilizing funding for budget support at the lowest possible cost over the medium to long term, consistent with a prudent degree of risk, whilst ensuring that government debt stock remains sustainable. As at the 31st of December 2024, total debt stock stood at 36.16 billion emalangeni, which is equivalent to 40.5% of GDP. Of this stock, external debt stood at 16.82 billion emalangeni, which is equivalent to 18.8% of GDP, while domestic stock stood at 19.35 billion, which is equivalent to 21.7% of GDP. The Ministry, through its Public Debt Management Department, also reviewed the current medium-term debt strategy to evaluate the cost and risk trade-offs associated with alternative funding strategies over the medium term. The strategy outlines how the government intends to borrow and manage its debt to achieve a portfolio that reflects its cost and risk preferences while meeting government's financing needs. The medium-term debt strategy is tabled today for more information. Mr. Speaker, while our cash flow remains constrained, the government confirms that it's doing all it can to pay suppliers on time. The government is currently working on 2 budget support loans that will help clear arrears, one from the World Bank for $50 million and one from the African Development Bank, also for $50 million. The Public Enterprises Unit continued with its mandate to provide oversight control and a monitoring function to our state-owned entities, or referred as SOEs, to ensure that they remain effective and efficient in delivering their mandates in line with government policies. Mr. Speaker, following the Ministry of Finance's decision to write off PAYE tax arrears that had been owed by some of the state-owned entities and the remittance of taxes through the Office of the Auditor General, of the Accountant General, I'm pleased to report that the Ministry has seen an improvement in the PAYE tax compliance by state-owned entities. This has also resulted in an increase in the annual tax revenue collection by ERS. Under the State-Owned Entities Reforms Project, it was found that the PU Act is outdated and needs to be strengthened. So the Public Enterprises Unit, in collaboration with the SEPAC, is currently working on the review of the Public Enterprises Control and Monitoring Act of 1989. All stakeholders are therefore urged to support this process. Mr. Speaker, despite isolated challenges faced by state-owned entities, I'm happy to report that in general, they have continued to perform well and continued to positively impact the growth of our country. Mr. Speaker, government has initiated the development and implementation of the Integrated Financial Management and Information System, referred to as IFMIS, which began on the 2nd of May 2024. This project will run up until the 31st of March 2028. Government has procured the consultancy services of the Republic of Rwanda's government in the implementation of the UMSEBE IFMIS. The first 2 financial years, beginning 2024-25, will be for the development of the core IFMIS modules, which will include planning and budgeting, accounting, bank reconciliation, procurement, payments, payroll and asset management modules. The last 2 years will be for the interfacing of the financial management system to ensure end-to-end system processing. Mr. Speaker, the system has been identified as the solution to a number of challenges in the government, which are perpetually causing audit queries identified by the Auditor General's Office. The system will enhance government's efficiency efficiency and service delivery as it enables online signatures and a clear audit trail of all government business processes. This will be a paperless system and will minimize human intervention, which can promote corruption and human errors. Mr. Speaker, the government is in the process to overhaul the public procurement legislation, which will introduce the use of information communication technology in the public procurement environment. Upon finalizing the legislation, government will work on the automated procurement system, which will cover advertising, submission of tenders, adjudication, intention to award, awards of tenders, and contract management. The new system is intended to eliminate human intervention in the tendering system. Mr. Speaker, as you can recall, that the government developed a public-private partnership, what we call PPP policy, and is now working with the Africa Legal Support Facility to develop the PPP legislation. This initiative will go a long way towards promoting the participation of the private sector in infrastructure projects. The private sector has been reluctant to invest in an environment where there's no supporting legislation to protect their investments. The government is anticipating projects in road infrastructure, road maintenance, construction of public buildings, the health sector, and utility services that could benefit from PPP arrangements. Mr. Speaker, I commend all eMaswati and businesses for their invaluable contribution to our nation's fiscus by honouring their tax and customs obligations. For the year 2024-2025, ERS expects to collect 14.6 billion emalangeni, reflecting a 12.4% increase from the previous year. This improvement in revenue is attributed to the enhanced voluntary compliance due to ERS's ongoing commitment to quality services and strengthening stakeholder relationships. The forecast for 2025-2026 financial year is 16.5 billion, reflecting a 12.8% increase. This increase will be driven by ERS's continued digitization and trade facilitation efforts, including the deployment of customs scanners, fiscalization technology, and other digital tax systems, while leveraging third-party data and data matching to strengthen tax compliance. The ERS's digital transformation program has further enhanced by the upgrade of the automated system for customs data, what referred to as ASECUDA, in December 2024, which shall simplify and speed up clearance processes at ports of entry. We made significant strides in domestic revenue mobilization through the introduction of income tax order amendments in July 2024. These reforms aim to enhance revenue collection while fostering an investor-friendly environment. Notable changes include the reduction of company tax from 27.5% to 25%, the introduction of presumptive tax regime for small enterprises, simplifying compliance, and the increase of VAT registration turnover thresholds from 500,000 emalangeni to 900,000 emalangeni, effective from April 2024. This adjustment reflects economic realities and supports business growth in all segments. Mr. Speaker, a major milestone for ERS's digitization journey was the successful implementation of the Oracle Revenue Management and Billing System, referred to as ORMB, in March 2024. This state-of-the-art system replaces the revenue management system, providing modern, flexible, and agile solutions. The ORMB enhances taxpayer services through its self-service platform, Tax Ease, which allows clients to access seamless, efficient tax services at their fingertips, and making a significant leap forward in ERS's technological capabilities. The country has achieved sustainable progress in trade facilitation through bilateral, regional, and international agreements. Initiatives such as electronic certificates of origin, the Automated Economic Operators Program, and the Coordinated Border Management have enhanced the ease of cross-border trade. A landmark achievement was the launch of a joint time release study with South Africa to measure and improve border clearance times. Through the National Committee on Trade Facilitation, Eswatini and South Africa have finalized a joint action plan, paving the way for a one-stop border to serve both nations. The ERS will also leverage third-party data and data matching to strengthen compliance enforcement. Over the medium to long term, we are committed to embedding tax education into the formal education system and enhancing compliance support for small and medium enterprises. Mr. Speaker, to grow our tax base, we'll be tabling a proposed increase in alcohol and tobacco taxes. We'll also be reviewing the fees and fines in the finance bill, mainly to keep up with the cost of providing these services. Mr. Speaker, I'll now present the budget estimates for the financial year 2025-2026. Mr. Speaker, the government revenue, excluding grants, in the 2025-26 financial year is projected to reach 29.14 billion, which is 30% of GDP, an increase of 7.6% on the 2024-2025 financial year. SACO receipts decreased from 13.07 to 10.4 billion emalangeni. However, this budget is utilizing 11.4 billion emalangeni, of which 1 billion is withdrawn from the SACO Stabilization Fund. Non-SACO revenue is expected to increase by approximately 2 billion emalangeni and amount to 17.72 billion, of which 16.72 billion is from taxes and 1 billion is from non-tax. Total grants for the 2025-2026 financial year have increased to 585.27 million emalangeni, compared to 492.2 million emalangeni in 2024-2025 financial year. This increase is primarily due to the International Development Association, IDA, which I referred to earlier, World Bank grant of 80 million emalangeni allocated to clean energy access transformation. Also 51 million from the Japan International Cooperation Agency allocated to the construction of 4 secondary schools across the 4 regions, and 237 million from the Republic of China and Taiwan to support various sectors. Total income taxes are projected to increase from 7.97 billion emalangeni in 2024-2025 financial year to 9.05 billion in the 2025-2026 financial year. This is mainly due to an increase in corporate tax income, which grew by 23.6%. Similarly, personal income taxes are expected to grow by 10.3% to 5.8 billion emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, taxes on goods and services, excluding SACO receipts, are expected to increase by 14.1% from 6.65 billion in 2024-2025 to 7.58 billion in the 2025-2026 financial year. Value-added tax increased by 15% from 5.09 billion in 2024 to 5.85 billion in 2025-2026. Fuel tax increased from 1.36 billion in 2024-2025 financial year to 1.43 billion in 2025-2026, reflecting an increase of only 4.5%. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure for the financial year 2025-2026 is expected to be 32.61 billion. This excludes public debt redemption of 4.4 billion emalangeni. The appropriated recurrent expenditure is set to be 22.25 billion, an increase of 9.9% compared to the 2024-2025 financial year. Total budget allocation to capital programs amounts to 7.25 billion, an increase of 14.4% from the previous year's allocation. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025-2026 financial year, public... It's a critical one there. There we go. We're back on speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the 2025-26 financial year, public servants' wage bill is budgeted to reach 10.48 billion emalangeni compared to the 9.8 billion in the 2024-2025 financial year. In this budget, $500 million emalangeni has been set aside in anticipation of the outcomes of the salary review exercise and any other wage increase-related expenditure. Mr. Speaker, the budget that I'm presenting today is a fully financed budget. The budget deficit for the financial year 2025-2026, in fact, there's another small mistake in the written speech there. We're saying 2024, it's actually for 2025-26, is projected at 3% of GDP, which is equal to 2.88 billion emalangeni. Mr. Speaker, we are well poised for entering a new era of economic growth. We have a solid Tinkundla system, a wise and dedicated head of state, a hard-working Prime Minister, a committed cabinet, a parliament that's focused and dedicated on improving the lives of eMaswati, a firm base of GDP growth of 5%, and a projected growth for 2025 of 8.3%. Let us take full advantage of this favorable position that we find ourselves in and take our economy to new heights. Let us stand together to achieve these goals for the benefit of our children and future generations. Mr. Speaker, by virtue of the responsibility entrusted in me as a Minister of Finance, I now present to this August House the budget estimates for the financial year 2025-2026. Revenue and grants, 29.72 billion emalangeni. Appropriated recurrent expenditure, 22.25 billion emalangeni. Appropriated capital expenditure, 7.25 billion emalangeni. Total expenditure, 32.61 billion emalangeni. Fiscal deficit, 2.88 billion emalangeni. In conclusion, I'd like to thank local and international development partners who have supported us through thick and thin. This includes partners who have displayed unwavering support to the nation, both financially and technically. Mr. Speaker, in particular, I'd like to acknowledge the support we received from PEPFAR, the European Union, the Republic of China and Taiwan, the UN family, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, the Africa Development Bank, the International Bank for Agriculture Development, Export-Import Bank of India, Export-Import Bank of Taiwan, Japan International Cooperation Agency, USAID, the OPEC Fund for International Development, Badia, Kuwaiti Fund, the Saudi Fund for Development, Global Fund, Clinton Health Access Initiative, Green Climate Fund, Georgetown University, the World Health Organization, Africa Legal Support Facility, Medicine Sans Frontiers, World Health Program, and the civil society. Lastly, I'd like to quote a scripture from Deuteronomy 1, verse 8. See, I have set a land before you. Go into it and possess the land which the Lord has sworn to your fathers. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
More. We all seek it. We dedicate our lives to achieving it. We want to grow more, accomplish more, experience more, and become more. This relentless pursuit drives us to innovate and improve. It's why we push the boundaries of what's possible, making today's dreams tomorrow's reality. Partner with a bank that sees beyond the possible and positions you to achieve more. Open an enterprise banking account and take your business to the next level. From startup to success. Because with Standard Bank, there's always more.
When you choose your adventures, You do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. You ask and we give you the royal experience.
Lalela sikutshele dindzaba tibuye enkosini uyeswana ninebe kunene kulandzela simemetelo semaganu samhla ka7 emakhosi sabusise emalanga lamasha kuyo indlovane uSokandaba lutsango lonke lakawowo aliphele sigodlweni ebuhleni umhla tingamashumi 21 kuyothi mhla tingamashumi 22 engomeni yakhe umhla tingamashumi 23 ayachithwa amabutho bophezu kwemkhono usho njalo mswati lomnyama kubakala uthuli ulo dumanda basempelempeleni ulo dumanda basemampontweni bayethe wena phakathi
Phezu komkhono. Phezu komkhono. Ngekubusisa kwawo emakhosi. Libi uthole luthango lufanele ukuthi livunule lihiya leli orange ngemgcibelo bese ngelisondo livunula lihiya lelibovu. Ningembathe mabhadubhadu luthango nibe bahle. Bayethe bayethe naphakathi.
Best league in the world.